You can give her everything, your time, your money, your loyalty, and still, she'll leave you for a guy who does almost nothing. Why? Because women don't actually care about what you do for them. They care about something else entirely. 5 things to be exact. And if you don't give her those, you're done. Look, this is going to sting a little. Because if you're like most guys, you've been told that doing more means she'll love you more. That giving, sacrificing, constantly proving your worth is the key. But here's the harsh truth. It's not. In fact, it can have the opposite effect. Women are wired to respond to things that have almost nothing to do with effort and everything to do with psychology. Today, I'm breaking down the 5 things women actually want from you. Not what they say, not what society tells you, but what they're really drawn to deep down. You could bend over backwards trying to please her. You could shower her with gifts, text her every morning, pick her up when her car breaks down, and still, she'll drift away. Why? Because what she actually craves isn't what you're doing for her. It's not about the dinners, the favors, or the effort you think is scoring points. It's deeper than that. Women don't respond to what you give them. They respond to what you make them feel. And that's where most guys get it dead wrong. They focus on being the nice guy, thinking kindness alone is the key, when in reality, it barely moves the needle if she doesn't feel the right emotions. And here's the truth that stings. No matter how much you do, if you're not triggering these specific responses in her mind, you're just a footnote in her life, not the main chapter. You've seen it happen. A woman will stay loyal to a man who barely lifts a finger for her, who doesn't check in, who doesn't chase, and yet she's obsessed with him. Meanwhile, you're there treating a woman like a queen, and she's responding with coldness or half-hearted affection. That's because she isn't wired to fall for effort alone. She's wired to chase a certain feeling, a psychological high that can't be bought with good behavior. Now, don't get this twisted. This isn't about being toxic or manipulative. It's about understanding how attraction actually works on a psychological level. It's about realizing that love, for women, is a deeply emotional experience, not a logical checklist. And once you tap into those emotions, she starts seeing you differently. Not as just another guy trying to win her over, but as the guy who actually gets her. So what are these 5 things she truly wants, beyond all the noise, beyond the surface level stuff? We're not talking about shallow things like looks or money. That's what most people focus on, and it's exactly why they fail. The truth is, these 5 things are about emotional impact. She wants to feel them, deeply, consistently, and often subconsciously. You don't even have to say much. You just have to carry yourself in a way that triggers these feelings without forcing anything. That's where real influence begins. And the first thing every woman secretly craves, even if she doesn't admit it out loud, is emotional uncertainty. Sounds strange, right? But think about it. What keeps her thinking about you isn't the predictable good morning texts. It's the moments when she's unsure what you're thinking, what you feel, or what you'll do next. That gap between certainty and mystery creates a psychological tension that pulls her in. Women don't want to feel like they have you completely figured out right away, because the moment they do, the excitement drops. It becomes routine, safe, and safe equals boring. That's not where desire lives. Desire lives in that small window of unpredictability, where she's emotionally engaged, wondering, analyzing, feeling like she needs to earn your attention. And no, this doesn't mean playing childish games or ghosting her to get a reaction. It means being less available, being okay with silence, and not revealing every emotion right away. It's the art of pulling back just enough that she leans in. That alone can change the entire dynamic. Suddenly, she's texting first. She's asking where your head's at. She's wondering what you're doing tonight. That's what keeps you on her mind. Not the flowers, not the fancy dates, but the way you manage your presence. Because emotional unpredictability activates her imagination. And once her imagination is engaged, it's game over. That's when obsession starts to form. Not because of who you are on paper, but because of how you make her feel when you're not even trying hard. Now, right after emotional uncertainty, The second thing she deeply craves is emotional safety. And this might sound like a contradiction at first, but it's not. It's the balance between not knowing what's coming next and still trusting that the connection is real. Women want to feel like they're emotionally secure with you, even if they can't always predict you. Think about it like this. Emotional safety doesn't mean being boring or available 24/7. It means that when she's around you, she doesn't feel judged. She feels like she can let her guard down. You're the guy who doesn't react emotionally to her tests or mood swings. You're calm, collected, and stable in a way that makes her feel grounded, even if you're not constantly reassuring her. That stability, mixed with unpredictability, creates a magnetic tension she doesn't want to lose. And if you only offer one of those things, she'll either get bored or feel unsafe. But when you give her both, that's when she starts emotionally investing on a whole different level. This is where most guys fall apart. They think that being emotionally available means constantly catering to her feelings. They overshare. They try too hard to be the guy she vents to, the guy who understands every single emotion. But when you do that too early or too intensely, you lose your edge. Because what she actually wants is a man who can listen without being emotionally pulled around like a puppet. She wants strength, not sensitivity wrapped in weakness. You can be empathetic without being overly emotional. In fact, your emotional self-control tells her more about your value than your words ever could. If you can stay calm when she's overthinking, if you can handle her silence without chasing, if you can hear her doubt without needing to fix everything, that's emotional safety. That's when she knows you're not just another guy trying to win her over, but someone who has his own emotional gravity. And women are drawn to that like moths to a flame. Now let's talk about the third thing that drives women wild, and this one is powerful: tension. Sexual, emotional, verbal, doesn't matter. Tension is what makes her heartbeat change when you walk into the room. It's what makes a conversation feel electric, even if you're just talking about normal stuff. Tension is built through eye contact, subtle pauses, the way you hold your frame when you talk to her, the way you touch her hand and then pull away. It's not about being aggressive. It's about being aware of the emotional buildup. When you can hold tension without rushing into release, she feels the chemistry without needing a single word. This is where attraction grows without force. It's the stare you hold for half a second too long, the way you say her name, the way you don't answer a question right away, letting that little space make her lean in. You're creating a loop in her mind, a loop she wants to close. But the more you stretch that loop, the more intense her desire becomes. Most guys ruin tension because they can't handle silence or space. They joke too much. They talk too fast. They kill the moment trying to impress instead of allowing the energy to build naturally. But when you master tension, you don't need to do much. You don't need to talk about how great you are or what you've done for her. You just show up and let the energy do the work. That's how some guys say less, but get more. Because they know when to pause, when to pull away, and when to give just enough to keep her locked in emotionally. And here's where it gets even more interesting. When a woman feels emotional uncertainty, emotional safety, and tension, all at the same time, she becomes emotionally invested. She starts chasing. She starts imagining a future with you without needing to be asked. Not because you gave her everything she wanted on paper, but because you triggered something deeper, something primal. That mix of emotions is what her psychology is designed to respond to. Not logic, not favors, but emotion. That's what makes her want to stay, to connect, and to fight for your attention. Now let's go even deeper. The fourth thing a woman really wants, and most men never figure this out, is admiration. Not in the way you think, though. She doesn't want to just admire you for your looks or your money. She wants to feel like she's with a man who lives on his own terms. A man who doesn't bend for approval, doesn't follow the crowd, and doesn't need validation to feel complete. She wants to feel like she's in the presence of someone she can respect, someone whose presence automatically makes her level up. And this is where most guys unknowingly sabotage themselves. They try so hard to be liked, to seem safe, that they stop being bold. They suppress their opinions. They hesitate to take the lead, and they become way too agreeable. But a woman doesn't admire that. She might appreciate it, but it doesn't ignite anything deep inside her. What ignites her is your sense of direction, your ability to walk away from things that don't serve you, your unwillingness to be controlled by her moods. When you're the kind of man who doesn't explain yourself too much, who doesn't seek approval before making decisions, who knows who he is and doesn't shrink to make others feel better, that's magnetic. Women admire what they can't easily control. It's not about being rude or arrogant. It's about having standards. It's about having the strength to say no without guilt. That makes you rare. That makes you someone she wants to understand, to follow, and to connect with. And that admiration starts turning into desire. Because it means you're not just some random guy trying to make her like you. You're already complete, with or without her. A man with purpose naturally makes her feel like she has to earn her spot in your life, not because you say it out loud, but because of the way you move. And that's something no amount of gifts, compliments, or favors can replace. Because what happens when you're always available? When you drop everything for her, she stops seeing you as a challenge. She stops viewing you as someone she has to work for. And without that pull, without that internal push to chase something bigger than herself, she emotionally checks out. That's why admiration is so powerful. When she admires you, she doesn't want to lose you. She'll adjust her behavior just to stay close. She'll bring more effort, more femininity, more interest. Not because you asked for it, but because you became the kind of man who doesn't chase, doesn't explain, and doesn't beg. Now all of this leads to the fifth and final thing women deeply desire, but rarely talk about. It's emotional exclusivity. The feeling that only she gets to experience this side of you. See, a lot of men either put all their energy into one woman way too fast, or they try to act like players, spreading their attention to seem high value. But both extremes miss the point. Women don't want a man who's desperate to give himself away, nor do they want a man who treats them like just another option. What they want is to feel chosen, not because you had no better options, but because you had plenty and still picked her. That kind of validation, when done right, is like a drug. It triggers something ancient in her mind, like she just won something valuable that nobody else can touch. That's emotional exclusivity, the feeling that she's seeing a side of you that no one else gets. But here's the key. This can't be faked. You can't pretend to be selective if you've got nothing else going on in your life. You can't act like a high-value man if you're secretly needy and afraid of losing her. You have to genuinely build a life that's rich with purpose, with standards, with options. And then, when you finally let someone in, that decision holds weight. That's what she feels. That's what turns casual attraction into obsession. Not the words you say, not the things you buy, but the weight of your attention. If she feels like you've made her earn her place, she'll treasure it more. She'll protect it. And ironically, that's when she starts giving back. That's when she starts doing things for you. Not out of obligation, but because she wants to. Because you've made her feel like she's in the presence of something rare, something worth keeping. So when you zoom out and look at the full picture, it becomes obvious. Women don't stay because of the dinners you pay for, the flowers you send, or how much effort you think you're putting in. They stay because they feel something around you that they don't feel anywhere else. A sense of presence, of leadership, of emotional safety mixed with challenge. And this is exactly where so many men miss the mark. They put in time, energy, and even money trying to prove they're good enough, hoping to buy loyalty or love through effort. But that's not how human psychology, especially female psychology, works. The moment she feels like you're trying to earn her through your actions instead of your essence, the value exchange shifts. You go from the prize to the one chasing the prize. And no matter how well-intentioned that is, it backfires. It changes how she sees you. This is why some men get dumped and can't understand why. They'll say things like, "But I did everything for her," or "I treated her better than any other guy ever did." And they're not wrong. They probably did a lot. But the sad truth is, she never asked for all of that. Not in that way. What she really wanted was to be with someone she could respect, someone she could admire, someone she could trust not to fall apart the moment she pulled back or tested him emotionally. And the brutal part? She might have liked those gifts, those texts, those dates. She might have smiled and thanked you, but emotionally she wasn't moved. Because deep down, a woman doesn't crave what you do for her. She craves what you are, how you think, how you carry yourself, how solid you are, even when she's being distant or confusing. Women are deeply intuitive, and they can sense when a man is giving from a place of fear. If you're doing things just to win her over, or because you're scared she'll lose interest if you don't, she'll pick up on that energy. And it doesn't matter how good your intentions are. If it feels like a performance, it kills the spark. On the flip side, when a man gives from abundance, not just material abundance, but emotional abundance, everything shifts. You're no longer giving to impress or to convince. You're giving because it's just who you are. You're calm, collected, not bothered by her moods or silence, and that makes her want to show up for you in ways you didn't even expect. See, a woman becomes emotionally invested not because you're bending over backwards, but because you're hard to replace. And the only way to become hard to replace is to stop being a people pleaser. Stop trying to fix everything. Stop hoping that your effort alone will win her heart. Instead, become a man who doesn't need her, but still chooses her. A man who knows his value, who's willing to walk away if she doesn't reciprocate, who's not afraid to be alone because he knows he brings real weight to the table. That's the type of man who drives a woman crazy, in the best way. That's the kind of man who creates emotional addiction, not through manipulation, but through strength and presence. So let this be a wake-up call. If you're stuck in a pattern of giving more and getting less, of overthinking her every move, of wondering why she's not responding despite all the things you've done for her, it's probably because you're doing too much of the wrong things. You're giving her everything except the 5 things she actually wants. And the moment you shift your focus from doing things for her to being the kind of man she respects, admires, and desires, everything changes. She starts texting first. She starts missing you. She starts putting in effort that doesn't feel forced. Because now you've tapped into what really drives her. And once a woman feels that pull, the emotional safety mixed with emotional challenge, she doesn't just want you, she wants to keep you. And that's when you stop chasing and start attracting. Watch the next video if you want to go even deeper.